Being the boss and then stepping aside for a new one isn't exactly easy, but it's a move Vic Wahl is happy to make. He spent nearly a year and a half as Madison's interim police chief, a job that ends Monday morning. Amanda Quintana has more on how Wahl feels about his leadership during such an unprecedented time, both in local and national history. Amanda?
Yes, well, you may remember then Chief Mike Koval retired in September of 2019. I actually interviewed him on his last day. He said some of the biggest frustrations were a lack of money budgeted for the department, a lack of staff, and a strained relationship with the community. As assistant chief, Wahl was expected to step into the role as the PFC looked for a replacement. Little did he know how exaggerated those issues would be.
Feels like a decade, even though it's only been 16 months.
In part because Vic Wahl expected to be chief for just 6 months, but duration isn't the only reason for that feeling.
All I've tried to do is keep us moving in the right direction, keep us doing the right thing and staying true to who we are as an organization.
At the peak of social unrest this summer following the death of George Floyd, Wahl says there were more than 180 straight days of protests in Madison and an already understaffed department pulling officers from other assignments to be there.
Being out there enduring that sort of verbal anger, verbal hostility, physical risk from people throwing things at them, from fires, and then all in the midst of a pandemic. So what we asked of our cops to do and the way they performed is really remarkable.
Though many of us might think of these images, Wahl says the real story of last year was the nights there wasn't any violence.
People focus on those few bad days where things were really, went off the rails a bit and where we were forced to intervene, and lose track of all those many other days where we successfully were able to facilitate people's First Amendment expression rights and allow people to do their thing, even with some civil disobedience.
He believes having all those officers occupied each day is part of the reason we saw such a jump in gun violence, setting or tying records in 2020.
The work that we have typically been doing to prevent and follow up on some of those things, we were limited because of that daily pull on our staffing and on our resources.
The case that'll stay with him, the shooting death of 11-year-old Anissa Scott.
I'm glad we were able to arrest the suspects and bring them to justice, but that's pales in comparison to her loss and to the loss that her family feels, and sort of how symbolic that is of the gun violence that we've seen and just how senseless it is.
Wahl says relationships between police and communities are cyclical, and the department will work to build back trust. He also says the department has done a lot to address racial injustice and disparities, but he says the criminal justice system is just one part of the issue. Education, housing, healthcare, poverty, all of those are pieces of the puzzle.
Amanda Quintana reporting. Amanda, thank you.